Welcome to POSTCAST. He showed up. I just sent out the tweet wondering, would Boone actually walk up the stairs and display some effort on a night when there was none? Why did you do this?
Well, David, I just thought that you just can't focus in on
good times.
Yeah.
There's that great poem about the real man. It's a sarcastic poem. It's got a bunch of swear words in it about, everybody. It's Caddyshack. It's the right, Yeah. This wasn't good, Ron.
There's a lot of lines in Caddyshack.
Yeah, there are.
Memorable lines.
Yes, there are. They're more memorable than most people who spend any time watching this would rather have rented Caddyshack tonight or downloaded it. That was an old man's phrase right there.
So what would people remember about this game tonight? More just the fact that the Giants got blown off the floor, or the three-point shots that were made, or, what memorable, what would be in the back of their minds?
Complete collective utter lack of energy that any combination that Tyrone Corbin threw out there had on the floor.
Yes.
Is Gordon Hayward really that good?
What a thought. I just got that same question from the broadcasters for the Houston Rockets. This game would have been different if Gordon would have been playing, but I'm not so sure. I just think that the Giants were totally out of it tonight. A little mini run, little part of life there in that first quarter, but then everything seemed to go, down.
Well, that second unit was terrible without Gordon.
Yeah.
Really, really terrible. And that's actually, Ty's got to figure something out here. I'm very nervous to take takeaways tonight. I could make a lot of observations tonight, but I think you're better off just collectively putting this thing and saying that, well, collectively you sucked, and so therefore collectively everybody sucked, rather than taking things away. But there are some real issues. If Gordon's out for a while, he's listed as day-to-day, and Ty's going to have to make an evaluation of whether he thinks that day-to-day is next Monday, or is it next Friday, or is it Wednesday. But if there's any chance we're going 3 or 4 games, I'm not sure he can play the second unit without Gordon on the floor. He may have to get somebody like Millsap or somebody else in there who can make a play, because they really had no playmakers in there, and it was a pretty unmitigated disaster in that group.
I'm sure that decision is going to be made. I think the brain thrust of that coaching staff will make those adjustments, and I think they definitely saw what you saw, in that second quarter, because that same group was never on the floor again, because I thought Paul Millsap was on the next time they had to make that type of substitution. I think Paul was out there.
The other one that I thought was interesting that the Rockets did tonight, which really was very good coaching, and I'm surprised that other teams haven't done this, is when they went to double Al, they went with Jeremy Lin,
yes,
and nobody else rotated.
Yes.
So the only player open was Jamal Tinsley. Other teams have run the point guard off Tinsley, but then they rotate around, and the Jazz have been able to take advantage of those rotations eventually. This was all of you guard your man. Jeremy Lin, you play the opposite of a box and one. You play a one-man double team, and you go back to Tinsley. If you're late getting there, we don't care. Let him take the shot.
Yeah, did that as well with Earl Watson as well. Jeremy Lin was all over the floor, double teaming. They could care less about whether or not Jamal Tinsley was going to beat them or not. Now, that was the first team that's really played it like that. And
it won't be the last.
And it probably won't be the last, that's for sure. But I thought a couple of things that they were able to do on the offensive end of the floor, I think that it's very clever. Now, it was the fact that they pushed the basketball up the floor. They love to get points in transition. But even when they're just after a bucket, they get the basketball over the floor. Whenever they were starting to get into their offense, it was still 20 seconds on the shot clock, which gives them a lot of time to draw and kick, to penetrate and get to the hole. Just a lot of times to run their offense.
Yeah, and I really, there's a lot of other things to talk about, but I would say that I really don't want to single guys out.
Well,
I think, you could talk about why someone didn't do something well and someone played a position they didn't play well.
Because you'd have to talk about the whole team.
Right, yeah. If we talk about 3, we got to go to 12, and we're getting out of here because it's my anniversary and I'm going home.
Well, I agree with that. But let me point out something else with the Houston Rockets. I was just talking to their broadcasters, and they were just ecstatic about the way they played tonight, because he said this is the way the Jazz looked tonight was the way they looked last week. When they had lost, what did they lost? 7 in a row or something like that. He said they looked terrible, as though they were lost out there on the floor. So, teams have games like this, so this is going to be one of those throwaway games, I think, for the Jazz. And the one thing that maybe Ty will do is just go back and show them the good things that they were able to do, and don't worry about how poorly they look out there on the floor, and start all over on Wednesday night.
The only final thought I would have is my kind of theme to open the broadcast tonight when I was with Phil was that win against Indiana was just so much better than I think the average fan realizes. Playing on the back end, back-to-back, playing the most physical team in the league, the number one defensive team, fighting through it. Maybe it was that big a win, and therefore there was just nothing in the tank today.
Yeah.
And let's just go with that. How's that? Does that work?
Sounds good.
Let's go with it.
Let's go home.
See ya. It's dark. The lights are out. They've been out all night.